saw Ole Miss explode out of the gates. Opening possession for the Rebels, a 15-yard rushing touchdown from Jaxson Dart. That was on an 8-play, 75-yard drive. Then it was a 61-yard touchdown pass to Juice Wells. Then a 2-yard touchdown run from defensive tackle J.J. Pegues. Then it was a Caden Davis field goal, then a Daquan Wright touchdown reception, then a Caden Priestcorn reception from 46 out, then a Trey Harris 61-yard touchdown reception, then a Trey Harris 22-yard touchdown reception. Caden Lee gets on the action, a 35-yard touchdown, his first touchdown as a Rebel, and it came from Austin Simmons. It was a one-play, 35-yard, 7-second scoring play, drive, whatever. Matt Jones with a pair of rushing touchdowns, one from 17 out, one from 46 out, and then finally a Caden Davis field goal from 41 yards out with 11:42 to play in the game. 76-0 the final. Jaxson Dart, 22 of 27, 418, 5 touchdowns, sacked one time. He also had a rushing touchdown. Austin Simmons went 7 of 16 for 111 yards and a touchdown. His first pass as an Ole Miss quarterback was the touchdown strike to Caden Lee. Walker Howard was 0 for 2 throwing the football. Matt Jones, the leading rusher, 3 carries, 68 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dominique Thomas carried it 6 times. Henry Parrish, 8 for 40. Jaxson Dart rushed 6 times for 27 when you factor in sack yardage. Ulysses Bentley, J.J. Pegues, Austin Simmons, Rashad Amos, all with rushing attempts in the game. Trey Harris, the leading receiver, 8 catches for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. They punted twice in the game. Caden Davis, 2 of 3 kicking field goals. He had 11 touchbacks in his 12 kickoffs in the game.
I love to hear that. It just makes me so happy to hear. I'm not even joking. Like, I can't stand the fact that kickers don't just kick it out of the back of the end zone. It's like, make it a 0-risk probability. Kick it out of the back of the end zone. Congrats to you, young man.
Well, Some of them can.
Tip of the cap last night to Southern Cal.
Yeah.
Who didn't do anything stupid?
Yeah.
They got a kicker that can kick it out of the end zone. Kick it out of the end zone, make LSU go 75 yards in 8 seconds.
First return, Xavion got it, and he was maybe a shoestring or so away from a big return.
I texted
you.
you.
Texted me. And after that, never touched the ball again on a return, I don't think.
Yeah. Shoestring tackle on the opening kickoff from that being 7-0. So.
Yeah. But the obvious caveat is there. It's Furman. I love my Paladins to death, but it's Furman. They were very physically overmatched. Their coach said as much. He called it the least important game on their schedule. Everybody on the field knew what it was.
Sure.
However, there are some things you can take away, without rolling your eyes. And I think it starts with the quarterback. Yes, it's Furman. Yes, he wasn't under much pressure from the defensive line. The deep ball has been everybody's biggest criticism of Jaxson Dart. He had, especially to Wells and Harris, deep passes on time with touch and accuracy. They didn't have to break stride. They didn't even have to really extend themselves. He has 2022 Jaxson Dart versus really the guy you saw last year, and then some of those throws that he made on Saturday. He has improved that area of his game so much. Now, the price of poker goes up, of course. But still, when you're throwing the ball 60 yards in the air to a receiver in stride without him having to break the stride, change direction, or really extend his arms at all, that's high-level stuff. And he showed you high-level stuff on Saturday.
I was never critical of Jaxson Dart, but when pressed, like doing interviews leading up to the season, hey, where's an area that Jaxson Dart can grow? Where does he need to get better? And I was like, he needs to protect himself and maybe be a little more consistent with the deep ball. It's not like he's not capable of hitting a home run ball or hasn't been capable of doing it. I'm just not sure that he has always been as consistent as you would like him to be with that throw.
Definitely not.
If you get a wide receiver behind a DB on a go route, you have to cash that in.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in big games.
And he did. Again, it's Furman, but he did that.
No, it looked good. He hit wide receivers in stride. I completely agree with you. They played a ton of people. going back to two questions from the other night, one of the things that I said about, were they able to run the football? I mean, kind of, but they just kind of decided to do whatever they wanted to do. Like, what do you want to work on? Well, let's work on getting the ball to a bunch of different wide receivers and play three quarterbacks, and we'll run it a little. I mean, Ole Miss had, good grief, I didn't realize they had 243 yards rushing.
Yeah, I got asked in the postgame, like, well, what'd you think about the running backs? And my response was, I didn't think. There's nothing to think. They didn't really try to run the ball. Part of me, and I said at the beginning, it kind of felt like Kiffin was getting Dart's stats, because I think at this point, if he averages just over 300 yards over the next 11 games, he is the all-time leading passer in Ole Miss history.
Okay.
Part of me wondered if that was, Kiffin was trying to stat pad for his quarterback to get him to New York and all that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think we learned anything about running backs and who's going to get the bulk of the carries and what that's going to be like, because they just didn't do it.
I thought it was really interesting. Kiffin in his press conference today, and like with Jeff Lebby, we'll play that for you tomorrow, or at least parts of it, said that Kyle Campbell asked him at halftime, do we want to explore a running clock in the second half, going 10-minute quarters? Because there's some teams that did that. And Kiffin said he was adamantly against that. And he said for two reasons. One, I got a bunch of guys that have worked really hard getting ready for this season. They deserve to play. I want to give them that opportunity. And two, our fans that stay for the whole time, they deserve to get the value out of their ticket. And, Borky, I thought in particular you would appreciate that. We've talked so much through the years about it's expensive. You don't need to get on to fans. By the way, there's nothing Lane Kiffin can do in terms of getting on to fans after that crowd for Furman.
No way.
When it's 90 degrees and the humidity is 100% at kickoff.
Whiteout
and by the way, a downpour 2 hours before kickoff.
Whiteout come out all right?
World's biggest wet T-shirt contest? I mean,
did you see that video of that girl in her white dress sliding in the Grove?
The head first mudslide. They're,
But yeah, I like to hear
life's
that from
about
Kiffin.
choices, and we all get to make them.
A lot of people in our position look at games like this and think, oh, that's terrible. Why would anybody watch that? I've got some buddies that went and they're like, this is the greatest. I'm watching my football team just destroy somebody. This is awesome. I've got a beer in my hand. I'm having a great day. So
if you are an Ole Miss fan and you were optimistic going into the season, there is not one thing that happened on Saturday night that makes you any less optimistic. I do think there are a couple of defensive numbers we should point to as well. I mean, the offense, okay, 76 points. First of all, they held Furman scoreless. Second, 4 sacks. Wait, final numbers. 3 sacks, 15 tackles for loss. 15 TFLs?
Yeah, and, Furman was going to be overmatched. What stood out to me the most, though, is not necessarily like Nolan and Pegues and Uman Mielen, because, of course, they're going to stand out. That there's a reason that 2 of them were high-profile transfers, and when you've got a guy like Pegues coming back for his billionth year in college, you know that they're going to be good. What stood out to me is when the 2s and the 3s came in, I didn't notice until, like, a tackle was made and it was a different jersey number.
Yeah.
Physically, we got to see that depth play against better teams, but physically, like when Cam Franklin, their third-string defensive end, is in the game, he physically looks like Jared Ivey does.
He kind of looks the part.
I mean, he already looks like that. So the 2s and the 3s on the defensive line, physically and athletically and get off and all that stuff, did not look any different. And that's Lane's been.
Hey, Dad, you know who led Ole Miss in tackles? Pooh.
Chris Paul?
Chris Paul. But yeah, the defensive Kiffin's been bragging on it all offseason, all through camp, and you see why. Physically, they are 3 deep at defensive line. They are, and it's insane. And especially in the fourth quarter when it's 4 freshmen or 3 freshmen, and they're all blue chippers from Mississippi.
Yeah.
That means something.
I was not I tried to watch, but it's had a game going on at the same time. What do you think about linebacker play? I mean, we mentioned Chris Paul a second ago. He leads Ole Miss with 8 tackles in the ball game. I know there were people that were excited about kind of what he did, 2.5 tackles. If there is a knock on him at all, it's been speed, quickness. He looked plenty fast against Furman. How's that going to translate to the SEC? What do you think about the other linebackers, Borky?
It's hard to tell. Paul stood out. Perkins didn't play a whole lot. I didn't see like the snap counts were low because they played so many guys and they were so good up front on the defensive line. It was hard for linebackers really to stand out all that much, I think.
That's fair. That's fair. And when you look at 3 sacks and 15 tackles for loss, that's 2 parts, right? It's coverage downfield and it's also pressure by the guys up front. So I think there was a lot of good. We're back.